the overall rentals, the reservation board, because people are moving in and out. You can't just do it on a spreadsheet. So the reservation board, the leasing, the maintenance, how to schedule maid services, all that's automated and within the technology that we're offering.
You're listening to Ice Cream with Investors, a podcast that is dedicated to teaching you how to better invest your money so that you can live a more intentional life. I'm your host, Matt Four, and it is my goal to teach and empower you to remove the roadblocks to your financial success.
All right, Angela, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much, Matt, for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we like to start with the difficult questions here. What's your favorite ice cream?
I love mint chip. I have for my whole life. So we've got a great little gelato place around the corner. I do like to mix it sometimes with coffee and mint chip together. That's how, excited I get with my ice cream.
I've probably said this on the podcast way too many times at this point, but my answer to that question is mint chocolate chip, because growing up, my dad was a mint chocolate chip fan, and he's like, nobody likes mint chocolate chip, so you need to eat this because no one will ask you for a bite of your ice cream. Turns out, like the past 10 guests I've had, 8 of them have said this answer. So I'm thinking his knowledge base is a little outdated.
It was. And, I grew up eating ice cream with my dad all the time. He loved ice cream, was a chocolate chip. So I was the mint and he was the chocolate chip. So
I love it. Now you are joining us from Denver, or right outside of Denver.
Yes.
You mentioned a gelato space around the corner. Can you want to give a shameless plug for what that gelato place is?
Oh, Gelato and Company in Highlands Ranch. It's the best. So
Perfect. Denver is one of my favorite cities. So I'll have to check it out next time I'm that way.
Oh, yes.
Well, tell our listeners, what's the scoop? What do you do today?
So I am the CEO of AvenueWest. We are a corporate housing company. So we're housing corporations' employees, bringing them in on assignment or relocating them to different areas. And we're providing them with that midterm housing solution. So fully furnished, like an Airbnb, except for that no personal belongings are in the property at all. It is a 100% fully rental property. Nobody's living there part-time and then renting it part-time. So it's furnished impeccably. We really want our visiting people to feel like it's their home, not someone else's home. And then not a long-term, we're not doing unfurnished rentals. It is that what we're calling midterm these days.
Gotcha. Well, I've got some questions around corporate housing, and I was sharing a story about why beforehand. But before we get into that, take us back. Where'd your real estate journey begin?
My parents were really the genesis of my real estate journey. They put 4 children through private college because they did furnished rentals way back when nobody was doing furnished rentals, but they rented them by the room to men or women. They had different houses for different genders, and they just tried to maximize the amount of money that they could get out of any rental. And it was a perfect opportunity for them. They did very well with it. They worked very hard at it. Obviously, they were doing maintenance. They were doing it all, always there. But I saw, what we were able to accomplish as a family with those rentals, and knew that real estate was going to be a part of my journey growing up.
What market was that?
My parents lived outside of New Orleans in a city called Kenner, Louisiana.
Gotcha. And who was the target demographic for those rentals? Because when you say that, I immediately think like college student or oil workers. But I'm just curious, who was the target demographic?
It was more the workers versus college students because they weren't downtown. They weren't near Tulane or anything like that. But they were close to the airport. So there were a lot of workers that got paid weekly. So they liked the idea of being able to pay rent weekly and not having a long-term commitment, even though we had some tenants stay with us for years upon years. But they liked just having the weekly commitment in case their job ever changed or they needed to move somewhere else.
So growing up, my parents were never really into real estate. It's something I kind of stumbled upon as I aged and grew. But what do you remember about those experiences with your parents having a rental portfolio? Were you working in the business? Were you helping them out? What did that look like?
Absolutely. So I distinctly remember helping my dad crawl underneath the house to fix a plumbing pipe. And I was holding the flashlight and, doing everything that I could to help him. I was small enough to go under there with him. I'm the youngest of four children. And, anything he needed, I was his right-hand man. We were kind of inseparable growing up. And anything he did, I wanted to do. And so,
Yeah, you lost me at crawl space. I'm a little too claustrophobic for that.
yeah, when you do property management, you have to be willing to do anything. You might have to clean up. You had a tenant leave and there was a rat infestation, and you've got to clean stuff up. You just have to be willing to do anything. Plunge toilets, whatever it might take. I certainly don't like to do it, every day, but I'm willing to jump in and do it anytime.
Yeah, good skill to build. So when you grew, I think I read that you had a banking background. Were you doing any real estate then, or how did you end up in banking?
Sure. I always wanted to be a banker growing up. I loved money. Monopoly was my game. I always won. I was the banker and also had the most properties. So that was like the perfect game for me. So started and decided to become a banker. But very early on, so I had a freezy stand growing up. I don't know if everyone knows what freezies are, but the frozen Kool-Aid, if you will. And my father took all of the money that I made selling freezies from when I was like 8 to about 15 were the years that I did it. And he put it in a mutual fund. And when I turned 23, I used that money as a down payment on my first property. And so I knew I wanted to own real estate right away. And, but yes, as a banker, I was not doing real estate. I did get my real estate license in California, because that's where I moved after college. And I wasn't necessarily using it every day, but I knew at some point I was going to want to use it. I wanted to purchase my own real estate and not have to pay the commissions to somebody else. And after about 10, 12 years in banking, the banking world was consolidating, and to put it in perspective, the last bank I worked for was Silicon Valley Bank, which we all know over the last year had its demise, which is really sad because I loved working for that institution. But I saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, I don't think I want to do this forever. I want to be in a different industry, and I wanted to be in real estate. And I took the opportunity to move one more time. I've lived all over the country, but I moved from Atlanta to Denver and started with AvenueWest at that time and got my Colorado real estate license. And, I also have Georgia real estate license. So now I have 3 real estate licenses, and decided that I probably can't get any more just because it's so much continuing education that I'm going to stick with the 3. But, just that whole desire the whole time, because I really think that ultimately the most wealth is made in real estate. You can play the stock market all you want, but if you're willing to get your hands a little bit dirty and, do what needs to be done to maintain the properties, you can really make life wealth. So
Agreed. So that takes us full circle to AvenueWest. Give us the high level. What is what is AvenueWest? And then we'll get into corporate housing.
So AvenueWest originally started as a real estate brokerage in Denver, doing fully furnished corporate housing. So property management for other owners of real estate who wanted passive income. So we were managing the properties for them full time, and we were putting them into our rental pool to rent to the corporations that work with us. It was a very successful model, and we lived through the dot-com burst, 9/11, whereas a lot of the traditional corporate housing companies that rent apartments and then try to sublet them were really getting upside down whenever the economy, did a flip-flop on them. And so we felt that it was a very sustainable model and decided to turn it into a franchise. And in 2010, we went through all the paperwork to become a franchise so that we could sell franchises in other large cities. And originally we were going to just expand throughout the country. That's when I started getting all of the real estate licenses and decided that wasn't a sustainable model. But what I really loved about the franchise model that I didn't realize was going to be a side benefit was that we had local ownership on the ground that was servicing our customer base. And in corporate housing, customer service is the number one thing. I mean, the property has to be in really good shape and everything, but if something happens, you have to be right there. The corporation is paying top dollar for the property. They don't want anything to go wrong. But if something does go wrong, they want to know you're going to be there to fix it. And so by having a local franchise owner and their local team, they had a pride of ownership. They wanted to be there. They wanted to be able to make those high mark scores and show the world that, yes, what we're doing is perfect and wonderful. In fact, our Arizona office just got a very big award, from one of our very large customers, because they had no errors for a 12-month period of time with that customer base. And that just shows kind of that pride of ownership, that loyalty to the brand that they were bringing to the table.
So AvenueWest is a property management company for corporate housing. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So corporate housing is a fairly new topic to me. I think I was sharing some stories offline where we rented out one of my rentals to a midterm rental through an insurance company, and it kind of got my eyes open to this whole midterm space. Maybe start us off with what is corporate housing? Who's looking for corporate housing anymore? I mean, is it the office dead?
Sure.
Like, why would they need corporate housing anymore?
It is really coming back. So yes, after COVID, we were all a little worried, like, is corporate housing still going to be a thing? But within 3-4 months, we started to see the rebound. And some of it was corporations were allowing their employees to be anywhere. So their employees were saying, okay, well, I don't need to be stuck in this city, especially like a high cost city in California. I can go and I can, live in Boston for a month. I can live in Miami for a month. I can, live wherever and experience different cultures, different areas, and really get a sense for where they wanted to be, or if they were just traveling for vacation, so it was kind of a mix between vacation and work. But more recently, corporations are asking their employees to come back to work if it's 2 or 3 days a week. And so some of the surge that we're seeing right now is corporations are relocating their employees back to the original job center. And then we also do corporate housing for consultants that are in on assignment. So maybe you work for KPMG or a large, or it could even be a small consulting firm where your assignment moves every 90 days or whatever it might be. Traveling nurses, it could be a fire victim or some sort of insurance where they have to find a like property to put the household in. We also do student interns. So large companies like Microsoft, they have thousands of interns that come every summer, and more of them are starting to do year-round programs where it might be a fall semester or it might be a winter semester versus just having the summer. So there's really a lot of uses for fully furnished. I mean, they call it corporate housing, and mostly it is corporations that are using the properties, but it could also be grandparents that want to come and visit the new grandbaby, but don't want to necessarily live in the household with the new child. They want to be able to go home at night. Or, we're seeing a lot of people that travel for the summer. They just want to go and find a new base for the summer. People that are remodeling a home and they don't want to live in the construction mess, but they want to be nearby so that they can go and check in on the progress.
Yeah, we're working with that on with our grandparents right now on trying to get them to spend more time with the kids. And unfortunately, they don't want to do bedtime and wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to I'm going to fight over who wants what on TV.
Yes, excellent. But if they have their own place nearby, then they can say, oh, especially if it has a pool, or we've got this one property right here outside of the Denver area that's on a lake. So, they can have the kids come and spend the day with the lake, and then they get to go home.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple things there. The traveling nurses one I think is pretty played out. Like most people are aware of those now, and with the nurse shortages that are going on, I mean that's how hospitals are plugging that hole until they can get a next
Yes.
recruiting class of nurses. Is just pay people more to come on assignments. But here in
Yeah.
Nashville, we have a bunch of auto companies, Bridgestone, Nissan, just to name a few. And if you think
Hmm.
about it, those are foreign companies. So if the executives
Yes.
want to come in and spend 6 months on a specific project or something like that, they need a place to stay. So how do
Yes.
I know that from being in Nashville, but how do I look at a market and decide, is there going to be demand for corporate housing or these extended stay middle term rentals?
Yeah, it's really looking at the corporations that are in your area, who's headquartered there or who has a major office location. Or, like you said, if it's an auto plant, is it a manufacturing plant? Because the manufacturing plants, it doesn't just have to be auto, it could be any manufacturing plants. They need corporate housing as well. And a lot of those manufacturing plants can be in the middle of nowhere. They tend to put them out in an area that's a little more remote, which does make it a little bit harder for us to find their corporate housing for them. Um, but to the extent that you have a lot of corporations in your area, it gives you diversification, right? You're not just reliant on that one manufacturing plant to provide you with all of your income. Because what happens if they have a layoff of employees and your property is still right there? So being in a nice large metro city that has a lot of headquarters or lots of large corporations in it, and the other thing is that they want to be within walking distance of the office. So I have a lot of people call me, oh, I'm only a 20-minute commute. And I'm like, well, they don't really want that 20-minute commute. They want to be close to the business center, and be able to be within walking distance. So how is your downtown area? Is it safe? Is it the number one thing corporations worry about is crime? Is my employee going to be safe? Is there a doorman? Is there are they going to be parking in the building, or do they actually have to walk from the parking space to their location? So several considerations there. They also want to make sure that they've got super fast internet. Most of them are working from the property part of the time. They're only going into the office 3 days a week, so they're working from the condo, the other two, or maybe they're a workaholic. A lot of them are. They're working at nights or they're working on the weekends. So great internet, but then also great amenities. Does it have a gym? Does it have a pool? Does it have an area that's more of a social center that they can go to at night and meet new people? If they're not from the area, they have no friends there unless their coworkers have been assigned there as well. So how do they meet new people and really get to indulge themselves in the full offering of what the city has to hold?
Yeah. Now, I want to switch us to the franchising aspect of it and to be a
Mm-hmm.
franchisor. But before we get there, I do want to ask, like, do you all help people find tenants for their homes too? So if I came to you and said, hey, Angela, I have 3 homes here in Nashville, great locations next to ABC Corp, do you help me find tenants as well, or talk us through that?
Hey, fellow investors. Before we dive into our next segment of the show, I wanted to take a quick moment to talk to you about a fantastic opportunity for you to invest with me. As you know, here at Ice Cream with Investors, I'm passionate about real estate investing and helping you navigate the exciting world of wealth creation through real estate. And that's why, for the first time, I'm thrilled to tell you about an opportunity for you to invest alongside of me. Over the past 3 years, I've been investing in multifamily, mobile home parks, car washes. I've even become the bank and lent out money to fellow real estate investors on a short-term basis. And now you can come join me. If you would like to jump on a call and learn more about this opportunity, head to icecreamwithinvestors.com/invest and find a time for us to connect. And now back to the show.
Sure. So it is an exclusive relationship. So you're going to put your property into our program and we're going to manage it exclusively. So we do have to have a franchise in your area in order to be able to do that. We have to have a real estate license and be able to manage the property legally within your state. And so by us managing it full time, it's not like you're going to book an Airbnb for the popular, concert that's coming, and our month-to-month tenant suddenly has to move out. That doesn't work. It has to be a full-time corporate housing unit.
So it has to be an exclusive agreement. So I'm placing my property with AvenueWest. Do you all have contracts with people like corporations in the market, or how do you make sure that demand is always full?
We do. We do have agreements with the corporations, either with them directly, with the relocation companies, with, we do have the agreements. And the other piece that's very important is that we have to remember that most of our property owners have one property in our system, whereas the corporation might be renting 50 from us. Mm-hmm. So yes, while our fiduciary responsibility is to the property owner, because we want to make sure you're getting your rent and, we're managing your property, we do also have this bigger relationship over here that we need to make sure your property is meeting the standards so that we don't upset the bigger relationship on the other side.
Gotcha. All right. So if you have a property out there and you're looking for higher returns, more stabilized clients, more professional clients, which is always a good thing as a landlord, then AvenueWest can help you fill that property through corporate relationships they have. Let's switch us now to like becoming a franchisor. So this is very interesting. I'm doing some public math over here in my head on, hey, how many of these rentals would I really need to own to make a good living out of this? So talk us through, you are the franchisor. Somebody can buy into being a franchisee in a specific market. Yeah, I'm getting my legal terms mixed up there, but they could buy into owning a specific market. What does that look like?
So the market needs to be at least 1 million people, because we need to have enough good corporations in there so that you'll be able to fill the properties. We're looking for at least a minimum of 30 properties to really make it a nice lifestyle for the franchisee. You can certainly have more. We do have franchises that have upwards to 100 properties, but it doesn't take a lot to get started. So the 30 properties, so corporations will pay more for the rental because it's fully furnished, all the utilities are included, everything, and they're going month to month. So they're not having to sign a year commitment. So because of that flexibility, they are paying more than you would get on an unfurnished rental or a 1-year lease. And for that premium, since we're the ones bringing the corporation to the table for that premium, we're typically doing a revenue sharing program of the 70-30 rental split. Across the board, 1 bedrooms across the United States, 1 bedrooms can run anywhere from $4,000 a month. Well, if you get into San Francisco or New York, they could be significantly higher, like $7,000. But $4,000 to $5,000 is most of the country. And so if you do the math on the 30% management fee, having 30 properties, getting that management fee monthly, you're roughly, making about $1 million in revenue and about $350,000 to you in the gross profit line.
You said 1 bedroom can typically go for about $4,000 in these markets. Oh yes. My gosh. So the story we were sharing beforehand was we own a 3x2 in our neighborhood that we kind of just got more room with the kids and all that kind of stuff. So we keep it as a rental. Somebody broke a lease in December. We were having to try to fill it. So I reached out to some insurance companies and got somebody, and they're only paying me $3,200, $3,700, I think. Am I getting bamboozled here, Angela? Should I be charging them like 10 grand?
I don't know about 10 grand, but are you providing the furniture and all the utilities, or are you just doing it kind of on an unfurnished basis, but for a shorter period of time?
Yeah, we did unfurnished for a shorter period of time.
Yeah. So arranging the furniture, I mean, if you have to rent the furniture, renting furniture in a whole house can be upwards of almost $1,000 per month. Whereas if you purchase the furniture, you could probably pay off the furniture in like a 6-month period of time. And most of the furniture typically will last you about 5 years before you have to start, trading out some of the pieces. So that return on the investment also helps get you the higher rental income. And then the convenience of them not having to set up the utilities, making sure that everything is there and paid on time and it's working, and then providing them with the month-to-month lease agreement with a 30-day out. get you the kind of that higher piece.
Gotcha. So if I'm lending my property to this program, it sounds like I'm taking home 70% of the top line. The AvenueWest local franchisee is taking 30%. How do you all structure that on the back end? Because I'm assuming there's some sort of rev share agreement on the back end or co-marketing dollars or something like that. What does that all look like?
From the franchise perspective, there is a $45,000 franchise fee to purchase a territory for 10 years. And then it's 1% of revenue for the royalty fee and 0.5% of revenue for the marketing fee. And then we have a monthly technology charge at $50 a unit. But that's going to give you a lot of the technology that you need to manage the overall rentals, the reservation board, because people are moving in and out. You can't just do it on a spreadsheet. So the reservation board, the leasing, the maintenance, how to schedule maid services, all that's automated and within the technology that we're offering.
Gotcha. And are you all at the corporate office responsible for like responding to these corporate requests for RFPs and things like that? Or is the local person responsible? Help me understand that piece of it.
Sure. So when I took over the franchise, because I wasn't the original founder of the franchise, but when I took it over, we added a national sales team. And I think that's one of the best pieces that we've added, because we can go in and talk to the much larger corporations on an overall basis instead of each individual franchise just going to the companies in their area. We do encourage that because there's plenty of small companies that could need corporate housing, and the local franchisee might be the only one that knows them. But from a larger corporation perspective, the Fortune 1000 or even Fortune 5000 companies, they are all over the country. So they need a solution, not just in Denver, Colorado, but they need it in California and in Atlanta. So the national sales team goes in and sells those accounts. And then we're renting those properties for the franchisees.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, I think certainly there are some smaller companies in the local market, but if I was to sign some kind of contract with Nissan to be their corporate housing provider here in Nashville, where their North American headquarters is, that's probably going to be a longer process than let me just show up at their door and talk to them.
Yes, it is. And not only that, they're going to probably need more than 30 units. So, right. Understanding the scope and the size of the company that you're working with as well.
Gotcha. What did we miss here? So we talked about furnished, we talked about corporate housing, some of the particular clients, we talked about the franchise relationship. What did we miss here?
So the other piece that I think is very valuable about the franchise, and you alluded to it earlier, is that the franchisor is providing a lot of services that as a small company, you might not have the funds to. So we have PR and marketing and, website management and, all of those things that as a small company, you would pay a lot more for your little piece than you would as you do as a pooling. And then we also create other vendor relationships, like how do we get furniture at a cheaper price? How do we, get linens, housewares, all the pieces that come into what we're offering. How do we do that in a more of a bulk scenario so that we're not just paying off the rack prices at, a Walmart or, a furniture store or whatever it might be.
How long how long have you been franchising?
So since 2010, okay. So 14 years. And then, but we've been in business actually, next week is our 25-year anniversary. So
congratulations.
I'm very excited about that. Thank you.
Yeah. You can rent a car almost.
Yeah. Yes.
No, the reason why I asked that is because I know some friends who've gotten into franchises and, they're 2 years in and I hate to say this, but the franchisor is still learning to smooth out the bumps in the roads, the ups and the downs and all those sorts of their pricing model to their franchisee and things like that. So the only piece of advice that I've received that I kind of follow in that segment of the business is making sure that somebody's been doing it for several years, yes. A decade or more, because chances are they've got things figured out at that point, versus being the first franchise location where, it could be work in your favor. It could not work in your
most
favor.
franchises don't actually make it past 5 years. So if you're early in the in the life cycle of the franchisor, they might not even be in existence. So I know it was a really big deal when we passed that 5-year mark. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. Well, I want to be cognizant of your time and shift us into our last round. We're calling this the 4 toppings. Our first one is, what is your favorite book, or what is a book you've read recently that's given you a paradigm shift?
So right now, I have twin 9-year-olds, and I have gotten them into Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. I just love all the magic around it. Yes.
One of those. Huh?
And so we've been reading them together, and we really enjoy it quite a bit. But typically when I'm reading, I'm more of a, Tom Clancy, espionage, kind of, I really read for leisure. I do also read, the traditional business books and all the fun stuff we're supposed to be reading. But when I do it for myself, for the enjoyment, it's more the Tom Clancy and espionage.
Are you actually a secret spy? So when things go down with Russia and America, you're gonna go go hack them.
Absolutely.
There it is. All right. Our second one is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Yes, the best piece of advice I ever received was from my father. He was in a quartet, a men's quartet, and he always told me, find your harmony. And I don't know if you know much about quartets. I probably wouldn't have if he wasn't my father. But when 4 people sing the 4 separate parts, it actually makes 5 notes. And so if you can find people that aren't just like you, they are the other piece of the quartet, you can make a better harmony. And it wasn't just, it wasn't just for my husband. It was for, every piece of my life, your business, your family, your marriage. And I've always stuck with that.
I like that, because nobody wants to listen to a song full of 4 bass vocals, for instance. And
no,
I think too often.
And how do you run a company with everyone having the same mindset? You need to have the different pieces and the different points of view, and be able to see things from every direction, not just yours.
That's it. I think too often when we look for business partners, we look for people we like or that are similar to us or have similar interests, when really you should almost be looking for the reverse. Who complements my weaknesses so that I can round out my full person?
Exactly.
Our third one is, what are you most proud of in your life?
My family. Absolutely. I definitely found my harmony when I found my husband, and it is actually my second marriage. The first one didn't work, but he's definitely my superstar. And with my first marriage, I had decided I wasn't going to have children. And once I found Tim and we were together, I knew I absolutely wanted to have children. And not having that piece in my life, I would definitely be missing out on one of my awesome toppings.
I am not crying. You are crying. No, that's awesome. Our fourth and final one is, if you could sit down and eat a bowl of ice cream with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Absolutely my father. He's been gone 21 years now. He was taken way too soon from me. And we used to have ice cream together when I was young, just about every night. I would love to do it again.
Yeah, well, no doubt he is looking down and smiling from all of the success you've had in real estate, knowing that he had some sort of influence on you. So that is something that he would definitely be proud of. So, Angela, fantastic conversation. If our listeners wanted to reach out to you and learn more about AvenueWest, becoming a franchisor, or just the corporate housing space in general, where is the best place we can point them?
AvenueWest.com. And so there's all the franchising tab. There is how to rent a unit. Anything you need from us is at AvenueWest.com. You can also follow us on any of our social media. We've got a great newsletter if you want to get on the newsletter, and find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. We will link those in the show notes. And then, Angela, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Matt, for having me.
Thank you for listening to Ice Cream with Investors. If you like what we serve you here, it would mean the world to me if you would like, subscribe, and leave a review on your favorite podcast app.